ਅਮਰੀਕੀ ਡਾਲਰ ਦੇ ਮੁਕਾਬਲੇ ਕੈਨੇਡੀਅਨ ਡਾਲਰ ਦੀ ਸਥਿਤੀ ਏਸ਼ੀਅਨ ਟ੍ਰੇਡਿੰਗ ਵਿੱਚ ਮਜ਼ਬੂਤ ਰਹੀ। ਤੇਲ ਦੀਆਂ ਕੀਮਤਾਂ ਵੱਧ ਜਾਣ ਕਾਰਨ ਤੇ ਪ੍ਰਧਾਨ ਮੰਤਰੀ ਜਸਟਿਨ ਟਰੂਡੋ ਦੀ ਜਿੱਤ ਨਾਲ ਡਾਲਰ ਦੀ ਸਥਿਤੀ ਨੂੰ ਬਲ ਮਿਲਿਆ। ਲਿਬਰਲ ਪਾਰਟੀ ਨੇ ਇਨਵੈਸਟਰਸ ਨੂੰ ਇਹ ਯਕੀਨੀ ਦਿਵਾਇਆ ਸੀ ਕਿ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਲਈ ਆਰਥਿਕ ਮਦਦ ਜਾਰੀ ਰਹੇਗੀ।
What has changed, if anything? You look at the seat count, and it is very similar, obviously, Melanie. But this election was not without consequence. You know, there's a lot of talk. Oh, this election. Well, why are we having it? And does it mean anything? Yeah, it actually does, because you are going to now see a shift in policy. The Trudeau government is coming in with a smaller popular vote than it did previously, but still a mandate and backing from likely the NDP. So what were some of the election campaign promises? Well, a focus on housing, how they're going to do that and get housing more affordable remains to be seen. Climate change initiatives, the pipeline industry is likely going to see even more restrictions going forward. There will certainly not be any changes to carbon taxes. They will continue to rise in any of the, under the current scenario. So we'll wait for the throne speech next, and then whenever the budget is. And look, the parties themselves, they're going to have to do some soul searching. There are no clear winners out of this. It was kind of split. No one seems to be happy with any of it. So that's going to be the sea change itself too, I think, coming out of this. That at the party level, there's going to be some big questions being asked, and we'll see how that plays out. A whole bunch of things kind of came to a head yesterday with this company, China Evergrande, this real estate company, which is one of the world's largest, looking at a debt default risk, but probably going to be propped up by the government in China. You've got structural changes potentially coming from the U.S. Central Bank this week on interest rate policy. The Biden administration struggling to get its infrastructure deal passed. Debt ceiling coming up in the U.S. Oh, and lo and behold, this morning, seeing a note from the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development out of Paris, the OECD, talking about inflation expected to continue to climb into 2022. So, yeah, about price pressures coming down or being transitory.
ਜਗਮੀਤ ਸਿੰਘ BC ਦੇ ਹਲਕੇ ਬਰਨਾਬੀ ਸਾਊਥ ਤੋਂ ਜਿੱਤ ਗਏ ਹਨ। ਇੱਕ ਵਾਰੀ ਫਿਰ ਜਗਮੀਤ ਸਿੰਘ ਤੇ NDP ਨੂੰ ਪਾਰਲੀਮੈਂਟ ਵਿੱਚ ਪਾਵਰ ਨੂੰ ਸੰਤੁਲਿਤ ਕਰਨ ਲਈ ਅਹਿਮ ਭੂਮਿਕਾ ਨਿਭਾਵੇਗੀ। ਕੈਨੇਡਾ ਵਾਸੀਆਂ ਵੱਲੋਂ ਪਾਰਟੀ ਨੂੰ ਦਿੱਤੇ ਸਮਰਥਨ ਤੋਂ ਬਾਅਦ ਜਗਮੀਤ ਨੇ ਲੋਕਾਂ ਦਾ ਧੰਨਵਾਦ ਕੀਤਾ।
Yesterday I talked about I wanted to make sure Canadians knew that we were going to keep on fighting for them. And I wanted that to be really clear, that we are going to keep on fighting for the things that people need. We heard a lot of things over this campaign. There are a lot of needs out there, and we are going to keep on fighting for people. So I wanted that to be really clear. So I didn't want to take up too much time, but I want to take a little time today to talk about the incredible team. And I just want to highlight some of the most important people in this campaign. Our campaign director and my chief of staff, Jennifer Howard. She's done an incredible job. She ran an incredible campaign. So proud to call her a friend and our campaign director, and she led us with an incredible campaign that we are so proud of. And I feel like she represents the entire team. If I can say one person's name, she can represent lots of folks. But I also want to shout out our national director, Anne McGrath, who led us to be in a position to be able to run such a successful campaign with the resources that we needed to get our message out there, and most importantly, to hear from people. So big shout out to Anne McGrath. Thank you so much, my friend. And you probably noticed someone that stole the show pretty much throughout the campaign, someone who people wanted to see more of than me, because she lit up the room and she had so much energy and passion while fully pregnant. Big shout outs to Gurkidin, who made this journey so much more, not just easier, but so much more fun. She brings joy to my days. She brings joy to everybody, and she brought joy to Canada, and she cares deeply. She was so impacted when she met people in Ishkandiga, the community there, young people there, and really reminds me of what we're doing here. We're here to fight for people, and I couldn't have done this without her, so I wanted to give a big thank you to Gurkidin.
ਓਨਟਾਰੀਓ ਦੇ ਚੀਫ ਮੈਡੀਕਲ ਅਧਿਕਾਰੀ ਡਾਕਟਰ ਕਿਰਨ ਮੂਰੇ ਨੇ ਪ੍ਰੋਵਿੰਸ ਅੰਦਰ ਬੈਕ ਟੂ ਸਕੂਲ ਪਲਾਨ ਦੀਆਂ ਗਤੀਵਿਧੀਆਂ ਬਾਰੇ ਜਾਣਕਾਰੀ ਦਿੱਤੀ। ਉਹਨਾਂ ਦੱਸਿਆ ਕਿ ਲਗਭਗ 2 ਸਾਲ ਦੇ ਵਕਫੇ ਤੋਂ ਬਾਅਦ ਵਿਦਿਆਰਥੀ ਸਕੂਲਾਂ ਵਿੱਚ ਪਰਤ ਰਹੇ ਹਨ, ਪਰ ਸਕੂਲ ਵਿੱਚ ਵਿਦਿਆਰਥੀਆਂ ਲਈ ਸੁਰੱਖਿਆ ਦਾ ਘੇਰਾ ਵਿਸ਼ਾਲ ਕੀਤਾ ਗਿਆ ਹੈ।
It's now been 2 weeks since most educators, staff, and students across the province returned to the classroom to resume in-person learning for this academic year. We've made incredible strides as a province to get to this point where our children and youth are back where they belong, learning and socializing in the classroom with their friends and participating in extracurricular activities. These are all crucially important for the mental, physical, and social well-being of our children. I know the return to school was met with some nervousness and apprehension, and I want to thank our children, the staff, the bus drivers, teachers, and parents for working together to make the return to the classroom as safe and comfortable as possible. Now that school has resumed, I know that many of you are closely following the numbers of COVID-19 cases associated with the schools in your area. As we see during the influenza season every year, transmissible respiratory viruses do impact our schools, and certainly COVID-19 is no exception. Over the first few weeks of the school year, there have been 1,046 confirmed cases of COVID-19 amongst students and staff who attend school in person. But with over 2 million students, and over 300,000 education workers and school partners, and 4,844 publicly funded elementary and secondary schools in the province, this is not cause for alarm, and in-person learning continues to remain safe. We are monitoring this situation very closely, and as expected, most cases are contracted in the community and not in the school themselves. When cases do occur in school, transmission to date has proven to be minimal, with the majority of outbreaks contained at 2 to 3 cases. This is thanks to the school community following the public health measures, as well as rapid response from our school boards and public health units.
ਮੌਂਟਰੀਅਲ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਪੋਲਿੰਗ ਸਟੇਸ਼ਨ ਦੇ ਬਾਹਰ ਇੱਕ ਸੜਕ ਹਾਦਸੇ ਦੌਰਾਨ 9 ਵਿਅਕਤੀ ਜ਼ਖਮੀ ਹੋ ਗਏ ਹਨ। ਜਾਂਚਕਾਰਾਂ ਨੇ ਦੱਸਿਆ ਕਿ ਮਹਿਲਾ ਨੂੰ ਨਾਜ਼ੁਕ ਹਾਲਤ ਵਿੱਚ ਟਰੋਮਾ ਸੈਂਟਰ ਲਿਜਾਇਆ ਗਿਆ ਤੇ ਗੱਡੀ ਦਾ ਡਰਾਈਵਰ ਵੀ ਮੌਕੇ ਉੱਤੇ ਬਣਿਆ ਰਿਹਾ। ਮੇਜਰ ਕੋਲੀਜ਼ਨ ਬਿਊਰੋ ਨੂੰ ਇਸ ਦੀ ਜਾਣਕਾਰੀ ਮੁਹੱਈਆ ਕਰਵਾ ਦਿੱਤੀ ਗਈ ਹੈ।
Around 5 p.m. there were several 911 calls that were made for a car that would have struck people in front of a polling station located on Sunshine Street near Cadman Street in the Laudizamo area. When the police arrived at the scene, they located the 7-person injured, 3 men, 3 women, and a child of 4 years old. They were all transported to the hospital and their injuries are not life-threatening. So the driver of the car is a woman of 51 years old. She was not injured and was not transported to the hospital, but she's presently detained for the investigation. According to the first information, the car would have entered in the parking of the polling station, and by making a turn, the driver of the vehicle would have lost control of her car, and then she struck the people who were in front of the door of the polling station. So the scene was protected for the collision unit investigators so they can analyze the scene and try to understand the exact circumstances of this accidental collision. Witnesses of the event were met. The investigation is still ongoing and the polling station is still open.
And was speed a factor?
Well, it's part of the investigation. It's too early.
ਦੇਸ਼ ਭਰ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਵੋਟਰਾਂ ਨੇ ਲਿਬਰਲ ਦੀ ਘੱਟ ਗਿਣਤੀ ਸਰਕਾਰ ਚੁਣੀ। ਕੰਜ਼ਰਵੇਟਿਵਸ ਨੂੰ ਦੂਜਾ ਸਥਾਨ ਮਿਲਿਆ ਅਤੇ ਐਨਡੀਪੀ ਤੀਜੇ ਸਥਾਨ ਤੇ ਸਿਮਟ ਕੇ ਰਹਿ ਗਈਆਂ। ਇਹ ਦੋਵੇਂ ਪਾਰਟੀਆਂ ਵਿਰੋਧੀ ਧਿਰ ਦੀ ਭੂਮਿਕਾ ਨਿਭਾਉਣਗੀਆਂ। ਇਸ ਵੋਟਿੰਗ ਪ੍ਰਕਿਰਿਆ ਵਿੱਚ ਐਲੀਮੈਂਟਰੀ ਸਕੂਲ ਅਧਿਆਪਕਾਂ ਅਤੇ ਵਿਦਿਆਰਥੀਆਂ ਦਾ ਵੀ ਵੱਡਾ ਯੋਗਦਾਨ ਹੈ। ਉਹਨਾਂ ਦੀ ਇਸ ਬਾਰੇ ਕੀ ਰਾਏ ਹੈ, ਆਓ ਸੁਣਦੇ ਹਾਂ।
For us, because it's teaching us that even though they don't count right now, once we turn 18, we will know how to go through and pick a politician and candidate that we support and how to properly cast a ballot.
I'm really passionate about student vote and the work that civics does. It's so important to get the youth involved in our democratic process and get comfortable with it, and so that they know how it works and that it is actually quite easy to become an educated voter and work their way through the process, and it becomes a habit, so that habit stays with them as they become tax-paying adults.
During the first week of school, my teacher came up and we started finding people that wanted to help out with student vote. And once we got our team together, we contacted each of the candidates from our riding and we held a virtual town hall at our school. And so we had moderators and all the candidates show up on a Google Meet, and they talked to us about what their plan was, what they were going to do, and we even had a chance to ask them questions from the students. And then once that was over, the next day we went through and we signed all the ballots that needed, and we set up to have our mock election. And we called down all the grades and gave them their ballot and told them how to where they had to go behind the voting screens, fill out their ballot, and go and hand it in. It was an awesome experience. Their voices and their words that they would use to talk to adults, but we are all like young adults and not there yet, so it was really confusing for some of them, but some of them like really related with the high school students.
ਬੀਤੇ ਦਿਨ ਕੈਨੇਡਾ ਦੀਆਂ 44ਵੀਆਂ ਫੈਡਰਲ ਚੋਣਾਂ ਦੇ ਨਤੀਜੇ ਸਾਹਮਣੇ ਆ ਗਏ। ਇਹਨਾਂ ਨਤੀਜਿਆਂ ਮੁਤਾਬਿਕ ਕੈਨੇਡਾ ਵਿੱਚ ਲਿਬਰਲ ਪਾਰਟੀ ਦੀ ਅਗਵਾਈ ਹੇਠ ਘੱਟ ਗਿਣਤੀ ਦੀ ਸਰਕਾਰ ਬਣੇਗੀ ਅਤੇ ਕਿਸੇ ਵੀ ਪਾਰਟੀ ਨੂੰ ਸਪਸ਼ਟ ਬਹੁਮਤ ਨਹੀਂ ਮਿਲਿਆ ਹੈ। ਹੁਣ ਤੱਕ ਦੇ ਅੰਕੜਿਆਂ ਮੁਤਾਬਿਕ ਲਿਬਰਲ ਪਾਰਟੀ 158 ਸੀਟਾਂ ਲਿਜਾ ਰਹੀ ਹੈ, ਪਰ 170 ਦੇ ਬਹੁਮਤ ਦੇ ਅੰਕੜੇ ਤੋਂ ਹਲੇ ਵੀ ਪਿੱਛੇ ਹੈ। ਪੰਜਾਬੀ ਮੂਲ ਦੇ ਉਮੀਦਵਾਰ ਦੀ ਗੱਲ ਕਰੀਏ ਤਾਂ 47 ਉਮੀਦਵਾਰਾਂ ਨੇ ਵੱਖ-ਵੱਖ ਪਾਰਟੀਆਂ ਵੱਲੋਂ ਚੋਣ ਲੜੀ ਸੀ ਤੇ 16 ਉਮੀਦਵਾਰਾਂ ਨੇ ਜਿੱਤ ਦਰਜ ਕੀਤੀ ਹੈ। ਲਿਬਰਲ ਪਾਰਟੀ ਨੇ ਸਾਰਿਆਂ ਤੋਂ ਵੱਖ 17 ਪੰਜਾਬੀ ਮੂਲ ਦੇ ਉਮੀਦਵਾਰਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਟਿਕਟਾਂ ਦਿੱਤੀਆਂ ਸਨ ਤੇ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਵਿੱਚੋਂ 13 ਨੇ ਜਿੱਤ ਦਰਜ ਕੀਤੀ ਹੈ। ਕੰਜ਼ਰਵੇਟਿਵ ਵੱਲੋਂ 13 ਚੋਣ ਲੜੇ ਸਨ ਅਤੇ 2 ਜਿੱਤੇ ਹਨ। NDP ਵੱਲੋਂ 10 ਲੜੇ ਸਨ ਅਤੇ 1 ਜਿੱਤਿਆ ਹੈ।